You can't hunt here. This land belongs to HOA.
Well, that's a lie. I own this land.
Imagine buying a piece of land, fair and square, deed signed, money transferred, and the very first time you step on it, someone marches out of the trees and tells you it belongs to them. Not a neighbor, not a random stranger, the HOA president. And she fines you $5,000 for trespassing on the ground you just paid for. That's what happened to Brandon Tate, a black ex-Special Forces veteran who just wanted peace, land, and a clean place to hunt. The first time he saw the land, he wasn't even looking for a house. Brandon Tate, a black man, ex-Special Forces, was sitting in his small apartment scrolling property listings when an aerial map froze him in place. 80 acres of untouched woodland bordered by a river bend, listed for sale directly by Harold Winslow, who had moved out of state. Hunting had always been his way to breathe, focus, and stay alive after the military. That was the reason he clicked the listing. He contacted the owner immediately. Harold Winslow told him the land had been in his family 50 years. He lived far away now, arthritis keeping him from ever returning. They talked for 3 days straight about access, paperwork, taxes, title history. Brandon verified every record himself. The land was clean, legal, and for sale, so he made his move and bought it. But buying the land meant something else. He needed to live close. Hunting required proximity and respect. The only house close enough was one inside a neighborhood run by an HOA he didn't know existed. He bought that too, quietly, just a normal house near the woods he now owned. Nobody knew he was the new landowner. That wasn't important to him. The land was. The house was just logistics. When he settled in, he didn't talk much. He unpacked, kept to himself, and when the permits cleared, he did the thing he bought all of it for, hunting. He hunted professionally, cleanly, legally, never crossing a line. Early morning, he crossed the tree line, moved through his own property, tracked a perfect buck, everything by the book. That's when Karen Bishop appeared. Hey, what do you think you're doing? A woman in designer hiking boots stormed through the trees, face stretched tight with outrage. She wasn't just a neighbor. She was the HOA president. Karen Bishop didn't ask questions. She delivered judgment. This land belongs to the HOA. Hunting is prohibited. You're trespassing. You'll receive a $5,000 fine within the hour. Have you ever bought something fair and square, only for someone to show up and tell you it belongs to them? What would you do if an HOA president tried to steal land you legally own and fined you $5,000 for using it? Before we get into this wild story, what country or city are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing where everyone is tuning in from. If you believe people should stand their ground when someone tries to take what's theirs, smash that like button and subscribe. Brandon stared at her, confused. He had just bought that land from Harold Winslow himself. For a moment, doubt hit him. What if he got scammed? Karen Bishop turned away like her word was law. She didn't explain. She didn't debate. She just said, "You're new here. You don't know how things work. Don't ever hunt here again." The threat was real and final. Brandon walked home that day, wondering if he had been scammed. The way Karen Bishop was so sure the land belonged to the HOA, and the fact that she had the audacity to fine such a huge amount, made him question everything about the deal. Brandon didn't sleep that night. The fine sat on the table like a challenge, and the certainty in Bishop's voice kept replaying in his head. If she was that confident the land belonged to the HOA, then either he was wrong or she was lying with the confidence of someone who had done it before. The way she didn't argue, didn't hesitate, and dropped a $5,000 penalty like she was stamping a receipt made one thought stick. What if he had been scammed? At dawn, he started verifying everything. Harold Winslow answered the phone on the second ring. Brandon laid it out clean. Karen Bishop, the fine, the claim that the land belonged to the HOA. Harold Winslow sounded offended. "That land was mine. I sold it to you." He confirmed the deed numbers, transfer date, and tax records. The land was legitimately his, no loopholes, no tricks. So what was Karen Bishop talking about? That confusion turned into determination. If Karen Bishop could bluff that hard, then there was something he didn't know. He walked the neighborhood, asking casual questions, listening more than talking, and every answer hit like a hammer. Everyone believed the land belonged to the HOA. Not one person questioned it. They talked about the future community park, the shared trails, the fundraising success. They spoke like donors who already owned the place. That's when he looked deeper. He spent 2 days digging. Public records, maps, archives, old listings, cached pages nobody else cared about. Then it snapped together. Karen Bishop had told the entire community the land was HOA property. She ran a fundraiser to buy the land, collected over $100,000, created professional maps and designs, and promised it would become a private park for residents. Except the HOA never owned the land. The land belonged to Harold Winslow until the day Brandon bought it, which meant only one thing. Karen Bishop scammed the entire neighborhood. Everything was fake, except the money she collected. Now he understood why her threat wasn't casual. He was the only problem. The new owner standing in the middle of her perfect lie. If he hunted there, if he spoke, if he showed the deed, the entire scam collapsed on her shoulders. So he did what he learned in the military. He gathered proof. Every document, every screenshot, every fundraiser detail. The maps, the dates, the transfers. When he had enough to bury her with facts alone, he knocked on her door, laid the evidence out, and said one line with no emotion in it: "Tell everyone the truth and return their money. You have 3 days." Karen Bishop's smile didn't crack at first. She skimmed the pages like they were pamphlets, not a loaded weapon pointed at her reputation. The maps, the dates, the fundraising totals, the owner's records, all of it was undeniable. When she reached the deed transfer stamped with Brandon's name, the color in her face drained, then came back as pure rage. "Listen to me, and listen clearly," Karen Bishop snapped, slamming the papers against his chest. "You think you can show up out of nowhere and steal what's mine? That land is under my control. Don't hunt there again, don't talk about it, and don't even think about challenging me. If you do, I'll bury you in problems you can't fight." Brandon didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. 3 days, he repeated. Give everyone their money back. Tell the truth. Karen Bishop leaned closer and her expression changed completely. Her threat was obvious. Her message was clear. If Brandon didn't shut up, stop hunting, and stay away from the land, she would make sure something happened to him. The warning wasn't about the rules anymore. It was a threat to his safety. She slammed the door, still shouting through the crack, promising lawyers, board action, community outrage, as if volume could erase documents. Brandon walked away, a countdown already ticking in his mind. What he didn't see was the instant Karen Bishop's world flipped into survival mode. She wasn't going to confess. She wasn't going to refund a penny. She was going to erase the problem. Within an hour, she was in her garage, calling a number no HOA president should ever have saved. A man who provided trained muscle, not landscaping services. Her instructions were simple. Get the evidence. If he fights, make sure he can't speak again. Destroy his house if you have to. They wouldn't come as street criminals. Karen Bishop wanted authority, something the neighborhood wouldn't question. So she paid for tactical gear, badges stitched with HOA enforcement, radios, boots, the image of legitimacy worn by people who had none. 2 nights later, just past midnight, when the streetlights hummed and the neighborhood slept, 3 men broke into Brandon's home. Silent entry, guns drawn, flashlights low. They expected panic. They expected a scared homeowner, not a man whose instincts were carved in combat. Brandon moved before the first breath of noise finished. The house went dark and violence became methodical. One went down in a choke that never let him reach the trigger. The second hit the floor after a counterstrike he never saw. The third tried to run. Brandon caught him. No screaming, no hesitation. Interrogation came next. Brutal, precise, military. 5 minutes later, Brandon had the truth. Karen Bishop sent them. He called the police and waited, with proof of everything sitting on his table and 3 fake HOA cops tied to his floor. The police arrived fast. Not for the break-in. They didn't know about that yet. But because the dispatcher heard the calm in Brandon's voice and understood what that meant. When officers stepped through the shattered door frame, their flashlights froze on the scene. 3 men on the floor, hands bound with their own zip ties, weapons pushed aside, and Brandon sitting at the table with a folder of documents laid open like evidence was waiting for a courtroom. He didn't yell, didn't dramatize. He stated everything the way soldiers report fire missions. Clean, factual, lethal. The land purchase. The old man's deed. Karen Bishop's claim the HOA owned it, the $100,000 fundraiser, the fake maps, the park plans for property the HOA never owned, the 3-day warning, and now the hired thugs dressed like HOA cops sent to steal the evidence and kill him if it didn't work. He played the recording on his phone, one of the attackers naming Karen Bishop as the one who ordered the job. The officers exchanged looks, the kind that happen when a situation jumps from home invasion to crime ring. One officer read the patches on the tactical vests, HOA enforcement, and shook his head like he couldn't believe someone went this far for a lie. They cuffed the men on the floor and radioed for detectives. By morning, Karen Bishop's name was in the system, flagged under attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and embezzlement. Dispatch tracked her phone leaving the county. She wasn't walking in the neighborhood anymore. She was running from it. When they pulled her over on the highway, she didn't get to finish her excuses. Reports say she yelled about misunderstandings, claimed she protected the community, but none of that mattered. The documents in Brandon's kitchen were louder than her screaming. Back in the neighborhood, word spread faster than any HOA newsletter. People who donated $500, $1,000, even $8,000 to a dream park suddenly learned the land was never theirs. The maps, the meetings, the speeches, it was all a performance built on someone else's property. The shock shifted into anger. Karen Bishop hadn't just lied, she stole their money. And then she tried to kill the one person who knew the truth. The HOA board fell apart in a week. New leadership stepped in. They apologized to Brandon personally, not as a formality, but like people staring at the edges of a disaster they helped fund without knowing. Brandon kept the land. He hunted on it legally, the way he always had, quiet, respectful, professional. Karen Bishop was gone. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison, 8 years for fraud and embezzlement, plus 4 years for conspiracy to commit murder and hiring armed men to attack Brandon. She also received full restitution order to repay the 100 calories she stole, a permanent ban from serving on any HOA or nonprofit board, and probation supervision after release. If you believe anyone who steals from their own community, lies to families, and uses fake authority to cover their scam deserves real consequences, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories that show what happens when the truth finally hits.